Now, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very big welcome again to Information Technology Project Management. Today, I'm going to be talking about the chapter about reducing the project duration. And this is really interlinked to everything we've been doing previously. It's really interlinked to from the beginning where I started talking about creating a network diagram. We spoke about work breakdown structure. We spoke about the costing. We spoke about, we've done so many various things as we are progressing. Allocating resources and so on. And this is really building on a brand new topic that is about reducing the project duration. So when you build a network diagram, you'll have an understanding of how long the project is going to actually be taking. Now, this here, take a step after you create a network diagram to see, okay, my project is going to take 20 days or 30 days or 50 days. If I want to go and reduce the project duration, how am I going to actually make that reduction in the most appropriate manner? And to answer that question, the most appropriate manner is going to be differing whether it's time-constrained project, whether it's resource-constrained project. Things will actually be totally different. So time-constrained versus non-time-constrained, resource-constrained versus non-resource-constrained projects, the way you manage the projects accordingly will basically be affected when you're trying to go and reduce the project duration. Now, we are going to talk about not simply that chapter, reducing project duration, but also we're going to talk about stakeholders and managing the project and so on. So I've put all the learning objective together. It's about understanding the reasons why we need to crash a project. It's about being able to go and identifying the different options for crashing an activity when resources are not constrained. It's about understanding the different options for crashing an activity when resources are actually constrained. So sometimes they're constrained, sometimes they're not constrained. It's about understanding the risks associated with compressing or crashing a project. So sometimes the project is taking 20 days and you say, you know what, I'm going to compress it. I want to make that whole project to go and be completed in 10 days or 5 days. You try to compress it or crash it. We can identify the different options available. If we would like to go and reduce the cost of our project, what can we do? We can understand the difference between leading and managing a project. Are they the same? Is being a manager or being a leader, are they actually meaning the same thing, or do they actually mean different things? We can understand that we need to manage a lot of people who work in, known as project stakeholders. Those stakeholders are very, very crucial to be managed appropriately in order for us to be able to go and get the right outcomes. You will need the support of all of these stakeholders. There could be people in your company, there could be other support teams, there could be HR, there could be so many various people you want to go and engage with in order for you to be able to go and get the right outcome. We're going to identify and apply different influence currencies to build positive relationship. In other words, if you want to influence others, there's a currency. Like if you want to go and buy something from Australia, you have to use the Australian dollar. If you want to go and use it from Canada, you need to use the Canadian dollar. You know, like there's a currency you need to go and use to be able to go and influence people, to be able to go and build relationships. So we're going to talk about the currencies. What sort of currencies? What can you, as a project manager, give people so that they become willing to be able to go and offer you the support that is required? We're going to create a stakeholder map and develop strategies for managing project dependencies. There's all of these stakeholders we need to go and deal with. It's about how do we work with all of those people. We need to understand the need to have a highly interactive management style. Management could be, I'm going to sit in my office, close the door, and nobody interact with me. Or it could be totally different. I have an office, but I'm not going to go and even come to the office. I'm not going to do anything in the office. I'm going to, let's say, go and manage by wandering around. You know, walk to everybody, see everybody, speak to everybody, see what everybody really needs to go and get the job done. We're going to more explicitly manage, project expectations. We can talk about that. How do we more effectively manage them? How do I understand the importance of building trust and acting in an ethical manner at all times? You want people in your team to trust you. You need people outside your team to trust you. You need the client to trust you to get the job done. We're going to talk about identifying the qualities of an effective project manager. If I'm a good project manager, what does that actually mean? Does it mean I'm unethical? Does that mean I'm collaborative? What does that actually mean in practice from a project management perspective? Now, it is a good timing now for me to tell you that what I'm going to be covering today is going to be coming inside of your midterm exam. All the calculations that I'm going to be covering today will probably equate to about 5 marks, or actually about 3 to 3.5 marks out of 10 in your quiz that is going to be coming up in week 7. So it's very important you understand.
That's next week.
Well, next week is off, my friend. So that's not next week. That's a week after next week.
Okay.
Be off. Unless you want to come in week 7 and I give you next week a quiz, we can do that.
No, sir.
And then everybody will hate you forever. Now,
Yes, sir.
so let's go and start talking, guys. Guys, time is money, okay? If we reduce the duration of my project, it's going to mean I'm going to potentially be able to save money. Now, how do you save money? Well, if you're going to go and reduce a specific project activity, there's various type of costs. There's what we call a direct cost and an indirect cost. A direct cost is cost that is directly associated to doing a very specific work task related to the project, okay? It's a work package of the project. I have a direct cost for that. If I'm going to go and reduce the duration of that task, a lot of time, if I'm not using my Slack, it could actually go and cost me more money. But there's another cost we need to think about. That's the indirect cost. And that indirect cost, guys, is more related to when we go and reduce a work that is required on a work package or work activity. Yes, that cost is increasing, but if the project is finishing earlier, my indirect cost is actually reducing. For example, my cost to rent an office is reducing. My cost to have a project manager is reducing. My cost to go and have a consultant is reducing. All of these costs basically goes down. If I'm working on the actual activity of the project, if I'm working on it, if I reduce it, it might take more costs. It's going to cost me more, but all the indirect costs are going to be reducing. So we need to talk about the cost and time trade-off. How could I benefit? Should I keep on reducing costs every time I can? Sorry, should I keep on reducing time every time I have the opportunity to reduce the time? Or should I go and basically ask myself this question, well, how much is it going to actually cost me for me to be able to go and reduce that specific project duration? You need to ask yourself that question. Cost time solution focus on reducing or crashing the activities on the critical path. In other words, if you're going to crash an activity that is not on the critical path, you are not going to actually win anything. You basically just wasted your resources. So you need to be very clearly working on reducing the tasks that are on a critical path. Now the question is, why should I actually go and reduce the duration of my project? Sometimes the boss might come and tell you, I need this to be done by this specific time. Sometimes, you know, there's time to market pressure. Like imagine you're Apple and you want to go and develop a new iPhone, and you know that if you're going to be late, you're going to go and have another competitor coming and competing with you, and you don't want them to go and get that part of your market share. Sometimes you're working on a project and it starts taking longer. There's like things you haven't anticipated. For example, you haven't anticipated there's going to be an earthquake in that area, and because of that, after the earthquake, you find yourself needing to go and try to reduce the project duration. Sometimes there's a client who comes and tells you, you know what? If you finish the project in 10 days instead of 20, I'm going to give you an extra $1 million. That's what we call incentive contract, bonus. You finish early. Sometimes there's an overhead cost that I'm going to be reducing. Sometimes the public is going to get benefits from me finishing early. Sometimes there's a very much pressure because those resources that are working on my project needs to go and move to work on another project, and I can't move them unless I actually go and I finish the actual project that I have on hand. But if we try to crash the project, a lot of time we need to bear in mind it's going to be more expensive for us. If we try to finish things very, very quickly and we take shortcuts while we're trying to deliver that, for example, if we are trying to deliver a software and we say we're not going to deliver the software in 10 days rather than 20, well, if you're going to reduce it by 10 days, are you going to be having enough time to be able to go and lower the actual quality? Are you going to go and indirectly lower the quality? Are you going to have enough time to test that software, test the bugs, fix the bugs? And if not, you're going to go and lower the quality that you are going to be receiving. And if you do lower the quality, you are going to have a client who is going to be dissatisfied. At the end of the day, you gave me a crappy outcome, and nobody's going to be happy with that outcome. I want to remind you that I do ask you questions while I'm progressing in the lecture. I will ask you, is everything clear? Do you have any questions? And I want to remind you that what I would like to see is I would like you to guys be communicating with me. So I'm going to ask this question now. Is everybody clear on what I've just explained? I want to see the yes.
Yes, sir.
Or if there's any questions, you can ask. Everybody clear? You can put your thumbs up on your system. If you are clear, only have 4 thumbs up. So everybody else doesn't understand what I've said?
Yes, sir, I understand that.
All right, great. So I'm going to continue now.
Yes, sir.
So ladies and gentlemen, there are things we try to do. Sometimes, you know, what can we do if we want to accelerate the completion of the project? Well, it really depends if you have a resource constraint project or you don't have a resource constraint project. If you have a resource constraint, okay, if you don't have resource constraint, if you have as many resources as you need, well, the very easy things for me to try to finish my project earlier is to go and add extra resources. Get more people, get more machines, get whatever needs to be done to get the project finished quicker. If I don't have constrained resources, I could go and outsource the work for someone else externally to be able to go and actually get it done. Sometimes it may be, you know, I might say, you know what, I'm going to go and schedule a lot of overtime for people to go and work. So I say, rather than you working 8 hours a day, I want you to work 12 hours and we will pay you more money for that specific job. Sometimes what we can do to be able to get the job done quicker, we can establish a core project team. And you know, from what I've explained in lecture 1 or 2, I've explained that when you have a dedicated project team who are only working on the project, it's going to mean the project is going to be able to finish quicker because people are only focusing on that one single task. So they're not stopping their work, starting their work, stopping their work, starting their work. They're only focusing on one specific job. Sometimes the project gets done twice, fast and then correctly. I'll give you an example. There was a very unfortunate incident that happened a few days ago in Beirut. A lot of people lost their houses. A lot of kids died. Big problems with, you know, damages in the billions. Very, very big issues. So many people need help. Now, people need houses. You could go and say, let me go and build the houses brand new, but that's going to take a very, very long time for you to do. Or you could try to find a turn and out solution until you fix a big problem. For example, you might say, this house is destroyed. I'm going to go and find people a tent, find them a place of accommodation, find them somewhere to live. I'm going to get them to be ready and settled and have the water and everything they need in the short term. And then after, I'm going to go and make sure that they are going to be having the house to be rebuilt in the long term. So I built it initially a workaround and then I built a solution after that. So many people, for example, have so much damage inside their houses and they lost all of their windows and doors. What you might say, all right, I'm going to now just make a workaround. I'm going to just put all the doors, put all the windows for now. And then after, at least the house will be closed. And then after that, I am going to go and fix the whole house where we're going to spend more time, but at least we know that this person is going to be protected between now and then. This is the example of, you know, do it twice, do it fast initially because you need to do it fast. And then after that, you focus on doing it correctly. That's if you have resources not constrained. Now, sometimes your resources are constrained. You don't have as many resources that you want. So what do? You try to fast track. For example, you try to look at the actual activities that can be done in parallel, and you try to ensure that you do them in parallel as much as you can. Sometimes you use the method of the critical chain. Now, what is a critical chain method? Guys, do you know what is a critical path method? Do you remember what is a critical path method? What is a critical path? Do you remember?
Shortest way to complete the task.
What's that?
Activity that has been used to.
What is it?
Shortest way to complete the task.
That's the shortest way for us to go and complete the task. That's the activities that cannot be delayed on a path. And if they are to be delayed, they are going to actually delay the completion of the project. The critical chain is something you work on after you create the critical path. Why? Because the critical path a lot of time doesn't consider the resources. So what the critical chain does, it says, all right, let me consider how many resources I need to be able to go and get this project to be delivered on time. If they look at the critical path and they look, we don't have enough resources, then what they do, they might actually allocate the resources to various tasks and see how long the project needs to be able to go and complete. What they would also go and do after they allocate the resources, which will increase the duration of the project likely, what they also go and do, they go and find the activities that are interlinked. For example, let's say there's a merge activity, there's one activity, two activity needs to be completed before we can start another activity. They might go to that activity and they might add extra time in case any of these two activities don't finish on time to arrive to that other activity. So let's say B and C don't finish on time. If B and C don't finish on time, we can't start D. So what they do, they actually add some extra time to D because they know that they don't have enough resources. So that's another approach when you have resources that are constrained. You try to use the critical chain method to be able to go and get the job done. Sometimes if you know you can't get things done and you want to finish by a certain time, you basically reduce the project scope. Say, I'm going to go and deliver less things. And sometimes, which is a very, very bad approach, try to say, you know what, I'm going to try to take a shortcut of my work. And by taking a shortcut, it means we are not delivering the quality that is expected. Imagine you making a shortcut when you're building a building. Imagine you making a shortcut when you're doing a software. It's just simply going to mean a lot more bugs. Anyway, I'm going to just take my medicine because my head is hurting today. So excuse me for a second. Now, continuing. Everybody clear so far? Everybody's clear about the options for resource constraint and non-resource constraint? No response? 1, 2 responses, 3 responses, 4 responses? Okay, everybody clear? Any questions?
Yes.
Slightly difference.
Yes, sir, all good.
The slightly difference between critical path and critical chain in one definition.
Okay, Amandeep, thank you very much for telling me. So you're asking what is the difference between a critical path and critical chain?
Yes, sir.
The simplest way for me to tell you, the critical chain looks at the resources that are available for you. If you don't have enough resources, the critical chain will look at the critical path and say, we need to increase the duration of the activities. We can't meet the deadlines that are expected. And they will find a lot of merge activities and they will say, let's go and add extra time to those merge activity, which means it's going to further increase how long the project is going to be taking. Does that make sense?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right. Now, we speak about costs. As I said, there's direct costs and there's indirect costs. Indirect costs. The project manager might not be doing any activity on that actual project. He might be simply supervising. But if he's going to supervise for 10 weeks, you have to pay them for 10 weeks. If he's going to be supervising for 5 weeks, you're going to pay him for 5 weeks. So if your project finished earlier, you're going to have to reduce your indirect costs, which is related to supervision. Your administration costs will be reduced. For example, accounting costs relating to paying the bills associated with the project. You might have consultants trying to manage or guide you on how you go and implement the project. They're not doing the task themselves, they're simply guiding you. The shorter the project, the shorter you're going to go and have to pay them. You're going to have money you are actually paying for to get the project. You pay interest on that money. You finish the project earlier, you earn your money earlier, you'll be able to go and save your costs associated with that specific project. Costs that vary, guys, increase with time. This is what I'm talking about in terms of variable cost. If we talk about variable costs, if we start working on time, they basically go and start increasing. We reduce the project time directly reduce the project indirect costs. As I said, we don't need those people. We don't need supervision. We don't need administration. Our costs will become directly reduced. The direct cost, normal costs that will assign directly to job that we need to do for the project. If I need the labor to work on the project, if I need the material for that project, if I need an equipment for that project, if I need a subcontractor to do a job directly related to a work package, if I have a subcontractor coming to do coding or to do developing or to do testing, all of these people, if you go and you're paying those people, these are the direct costs associated for the project. If I say I need to finish my project quicker, so I'm going to get 2 more developers, they will cost me money. Yes, you crash the activities. Yes, you finish earlier, but it's costing you money, specifically the direct cost money associated to one specific work package. So you crash an activity, it's going to mean that your direct cost is going to be increasing and your indirect cost is going to be reducing. So how do I basically reduce the project duration? We need to gather information about the direct and indirect costs of a specific project duration. Day 14, what's the direct cost? What's an indirect cost? Day 13, what's the direct cost? What's an indirect cost? Day 9, day 10, day 8, day 7, and so on. Then what we need to do to reduce the cost? We need to search for the critical activities, okay, for lowest direct cost activity to shorten. How do you do it? Imagine there's 1 path, 2 paths. What do? You look at the first path, you count how many days it is. You look at the second path, you look how many days it is. For the longest path, you go and find every activity you can crash, and then you check and you say, which one of those activity will cost me the least to go and crash? This is how you go and crash the cheapest possible item on the actual critical path. You compute the total cost for a specific duration. So for day 13, I add the direct cost with an indirect cost, I get a total. 12, direct cost, indirect cost, total, 11, 10, 9, and so on. Any questions, guys? All right. So when we go and add direct and indirect costs, we get this line here called the total cost. You see, that's here. This is the direct cost, this one here. And this is the indirect cost. The indirect cost is that much, plus the direct cost is that much. If I add to the direct cost, the indirect cost will get this total here. That's a direct and indirect cost. Here, this and this is here together. This and this is here together. This and this is here together. You notice day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8, day 9, day 10, day 11, day 12, day 13. You see all of these calculations. So your total cost is calculated based on period. Okay, this one here, day 14, day 13. You see how it's added. When you add the direct and indirect costs together, you'll be able to see from the graph which one will be the cheapest possible cost. Here, that's a cost. It's going to cost me 40, let's say 41, 42. That's cheaper than that, and that, and it's actually cheaper than all of these here. So when you combine the direct and indirect cost, you'll find the cheapest possible cost, which tells you that the best ideal project duration in this example is actually to finish the project in 10 days only. If you finish it in 11, you're going to be more expensive. If you finish it in 9, you're going to be more expensive. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, any questions? Thank you, Arsalan.
No, sir.
All right. So guys, we're going to try to see how do we construct a project cost duration? Like what do we need to do? As I said, we need to find the total direct cost for a selected project duration. So we find that. Thank you, Aman. We're going to find the total direct cost for a duration. We're going to find the total indirect cost for a duration. We're going to add the direct cost and an indirect cost together. And that's going to give me the final cost, the full cost. We're going to then compare the actual cost based on various alternatives for benefits. Like, is it good for me to finish in 9, 10, 11, 12? You basically compare it to cost and decide which one is going to be the best approach for you to go and finish the project. Now, we need to determine, guys, the activities that we need to go and shorten. Which activity is going to go and cost me the least? Shorten the activities with the smallest increase in cost per unit of time. As I said, there's one path, two paths. We count the duration for the first, we count the duration for the other, and then we find which one of these activities on the critical path, which activity on the critical path will cost me the cheapest for me to be able to go and reduce my cost. Now, some assumptions you need to bear in mind when you're trying to go and reduce the actual project cost. What? One is the cost relationship is linear. You're making this assumption. What does the cost relationship is linear? It means if I'm going to reduce activity A from 10 days, I have to reduce it 1 day at a time. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So it's linear, one at a time. Every time I reduce it, every period I reduce it, how much is it actually going to cost me? Second assumption is normal time that we use assumes low cost, efficient methods to complete the activity. So the low cost, efficient method to complete any of the activities we have. Crash time represent a limit, the greatest time reduction possible under realistic conditions. So if I want to reduce this activity A from 5 days, if I want to crash it, what's the maximum? How many times can I crash it? I can crash it 2 times only. Okay, that's your limit. You can't crash it more. Slow is how much is it going to cost me every time I am going to reduce my project duration. So what I mean by every time I'm going to reduce my duration, I mean every time I'm going to reduce the duration per item. So for A, how much is A going to cost me to reduce it 1 time? How much is B, C, D, and E activities? Each of them is going to cost me to go and reduce the cost, reduce the duration by 1 period of time. So the slope is really the cost to reduce every activity per 1 period of time. Now, some activity might be able to be reduced 6 times, but every time there's a slope, how much it's going to cost you every time you go and reduce it. Now, finally, all acceleration must occur within the normal and crash time. So if you believe your normal time is 10 days and your crash time, which is the shortest possible duration, is 5 days, you can only reduce your activity between days 10 and days 5. You can't go to day 4. You can't crash it. It's between day 10 and day 5, which is your normal time and your crash time that has been calculated. That's really the last point I made. If that activity here, if the activity duration is 10 days and the crash activity duration is 5 days, I can only crash it between this duration and this duration. I can only crash it between day 10 and day 5. I can't crash it any further. And the cost that's going to cost me between day 10 here and day 5, how much? Can anybody tell me how much difference between day 10 and then day 5? How much more money is it going to cost me?
400.
400. 400 for how many periods?
5.
For 5 periods. So how much is it going to cost me per period? Per period. If I want to crash it 1 period at a time, how much is it going to cost me?
80.
80. That's correct. 100% correct. Okay. So there's 5 days. The 5 day difference is 400 extra. 400 divided by the 5 days. That's $80 it's going to cost me every time I'm going to be crashing that specific activity. All right, beautiful people, any questions? Feel free to type them if you don't want to say, but you're very welcome to do that. All right, thank you, Ranjit. All right, let's continue. So, this is really what you need to learn for your calculations. I believe you will be getting between 2 and 3.5 marks over 10 in your quiz week 7 if you were to be able to know how to do this calculation. So pay attention and learn to be able to learn how to do this specific job. Now, let's go. So we have a number of activities. We have activity A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We have all of these preceding activities, which means we can actually go and create the normal network diagram. We can draw the network diagram. Okay, mate, I believe, Zaka, you can choose your name from there and you can make a change. If it doesn't show at the end, I'll try to remember it for today. Maybe you logged into someone else's account, so just double check that out. So guys, there's activity IDs and there's a precedence. And you know from these two items here, you do know that you can draw a network diagram. You know that from before. We're focusing on this activity here, all the way from you. So I'm focusing on this. This is new. This is what I'm teaching you today. Activity A, I can finish it normally in 3 days at a cost of $50. Activity B, I normally finish it in 6 days at a cost of $80. Activity C, normally 10 days at a cost of $60. D, 11 days at a cost of $50. E, 8 days at a cost of $100. F, 5 days at a cost of $40. And G, 6 days at a cost of $70. Now, if I was to crash my activity, I could finish activity A in 2 days. That's the shortest possible time I can actually finish activity A. I finish it in 2 days, it's going to cost me $70. I finish it in 3 days, it's going to cost me only $50. Activity B, I finish it in 4 days, it'll cost me $160. I finish it in 6 days, it'll cost me $80. So the normal time is $80, crash time is $160. See, normal time is 10, but crash time is 9. So I can finish it in 9 days instead of 10. See, my cost is 60 normally if it's 10 days, but my cost is 90 if I go and I make it in 9 days. So basically what this is telling you is every activity or a lot of the activities here could be crashed. Now, notice that activity G, normal time 6 days and crash time is 6 days, which means activity G cannot be delayed. So not every activity on your path of the project could actually be reduced. Some activities cannot be reduced. So that's the normal time to do a job, and that's the crash time, which is the shortest possible duration to do a job, and that's how much the cost will be. If it's in 2 days, the overall cost is 70. If it's 3 days, the overall cost is 50. Guys, it's very important you understand what I've just covered now, because that's a foundation for everything else. Are we clear? Yes or no?
Sorry, can you repeat that again, because I have some problem with that. Can you please repeat once for me? Thank you.
Okay. Now everybody focus, guys. I'm going to repeat one more time. You have for the network various activities, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. For these activities to be done, there's all of these items or tasks that needs to be done before them. If we talk about activity A, I can do activity A in 3 days. That's my normal time under normal conditions. And it is going to cost me $50. But I can also finish activity A instead of in 3 days, in 2 days, which is what we call to be the actual crash cost. Now, if I finish it in 2 days, it's going to start costing me $70 to finish in 2 days instead of $50 to finish in 3 days. So, in simple words, activity A could be finished quicker. So how many days quicker? 1 day quicker, because we can finish it in 2 days. And instead of paying 50 for 3 days, I'll finish it in 2 days, but it's going to cost me 70. So it's going to cost me $20 more to finish the project or to finish the task in 2 days instead of 3 days. How? Because we allocate more people to it. Every activity have a normal time and have a crash time. And if we crash in it, it's going to start going and costing me different amount of money. It's going to be more expensive for me to crash the activity. You notice that some activity like G, normal time and crash time are the same, which means the activity cannot be reduced at all. That's the duration of it. You can't change it. Does that make sense?
So the actual crash amount is basically we are going to make more resources and spend more money.
Well,
Yeah.
basically, yes. You are assigning more resources to finish a task earlier, which means it is going to cost you more money.
Okay, so basically the crash meaning is that. Okay. So what is this formula, sir? CCC minus NC over...
I haven't done it. I'm doing that now.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No worries. So the slope is how much is it going to cost you every time you go and crash an activity. So if I was to crash A, how much is it going to cost me per period I crash? Per day, how much is it going to cost me? To calculate it, you see this? Crash cost, CC, normal cost, NC. So CC minus NC. So 70 minus 50 divided by normal time NT minus crash time CT. So crash cost minus normal cost for A is 70 minus 50 divided by normal time of 3 minus 2. So 70 minus 50, which is this one, is 20, divided by normal time of 3 minus crash time of 2. So 20 divided by 1 means the slope for activity A is 20. Means A is only going to cost me $20 for me to reduce it per duration of time. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, what I'm going to do is you now have the requirement is I want you to calculate B, C, D, E, F, and G in front of you, and I want you to calculate the cost yourself. It's crash cost minus normal cost divided by normal time minus crash time. Do it in front of you now. I want to see the answers. So let's do it now, and I want you to tell me the answers very shortly. So start working. I'm going to give you 2 minutes for that activity. Thank you. Everyone clear on what you're doing? Okay. Sounds like yes.
Sir, can you repeat the question, please?
Is you need to calculate crash cost minus normal cost divided by normal time minus crash time. The crash cost is here, the normal cost is here, the normal time is here, the crash time is here. You need to use this formula to understand what is the slope, which is how much is it going to cost me every time I'm going to reduce the activity for 1 day. So if I'm going to reduce P per period, how much is it going to cost me? To do that, you need to do the crash cost minus my normal cost divided by normal time minus crash time, which is this formula here. Does that make sense? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll give you 2 minutes. Please do that now. Thank you. All right, I can see. Yep. All right, I can start seeing some answers flowing, guys. Well done. Deepu, you're correct, mate. Imran, good job. Deepa, well done. All right, I can see more answers. Well done. So you guys see how you can do it? You understand it? It's very simple, yeah? All right, you can see all the answers. So guys, these are the answers. Have a look at them. So maximum I can crash a maximum of 1 day. Why? Because 3 minus 2 equal 1 day. How much is it going to cost me? You use the formula, it's $20. B, between 6 and 4, there's 2 days. How much is it going to cost me per time I crash it? It's $40. So there's all of that information for you to go and consider. Any questions, guys? Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir. All good.
All right, so let's move on to the next activity, which is really, that's where we do the calculations. Now, if you are to be doing any calculations like that, you'll have to basically have a network diagram. And a lot of times, we'll basically give you, we do give you all of this, if you want the activity. We do give you that specific diagram in the actual class for you to be able to go and do it. So there's this activity here, okay, A, B, E, G, A, C, F, G, and so on. You see, this normal time, it's going to take 25 days for you to go and complete the project. To finish it in 25 days, it will cost you 450. You're going to say, where is the 450 from? 450 is the total of all of these activities. 50 plus 80 plus 60 plus 50 plus 100 plus 40 plus 70 equal 450. So the diagram you see on the left is really the network diagram, but it's actually a small version of the network diagram. If I was to give you an exercise in the exam, I'll be giving you most likely this diagram if there's a big calculation. So if we talk about the network diagram, the normal time to finish this project is 25 days at a cost of 450. Now, my first question to you, my friends, is which activity cannot be crashed? Which activity cannot be crashed?
Activity G.
Activity G.
So G is gone. We cannot crash it. Okay? Now, I want you to look, how many roads do we have? How many paths do we have? To finish the project, how many paths do we have?
3.
3.
Yeah, so that's A, B, E, G, A, C, F, G, and A, D, F, G. Correct? Can you
Yes,
see
sir.
them?
Yes, sir.
Can you count the duration, 3 plus 6 plus 8 plus 6, counting the duration for this pass, the duration for this pass, and the duration for this pass, and tell me which one is a critical path? So which one is a critical path? Can you tell me?
ADFG.
ADFG. Now, ADFG, we have activity A, D, F, and G on that path. Could you tell me which one is going to cost me the less to be able to go and crash it? Is A going to cost me less? Is D going to cost me less? Is F going to cost me less? Or is G going to cost me less?
Activity G.
Which one, my friend, is going to cost me less?
F.
F. So F is going to cost me $30. Is that the cheapest?
No, sir, activity A.
A is going to be the cheapest. Okay. So if I was to reduce A, how many periods can I reduce A by? How many times can I reduce A? What's the maximum time period I can crash A? How many times?
1.
I can crash it for one time only. So I can crash it from 3 days to 2 days. That's correct. So if I crash it by 1 day, activity A will reduce from 3 days to 2 days. So I'm crashing A. It's going to become 2 days. I put 2x, why 2x? Because it means you cannot crash the activity anymore. You can only crash it one time. X means you can't crash it anymore. If I crash A by one period, how much extra is my cost? How much extra is my cost? What's the increase of my cost? To crash it one time, what's my increase of cost?
20%.
What's that?
$20.
$20. So my cost will increase from 450 to how much?
470.
470. And my duration will change from 25 days to how much?
24 days.
24 days. So that becomes 24 days and my cost becomes 470. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I want you to count every pass again and tell me which one is now the critical pass. Can you count them again, please? So which one is a critical pass now? Yeah, well, you're saying A, B, E, G. Let's count it. 6 plus 6 plus 8 plus 2. That's 12 and 8, 20 and 2, 22. 6 plus 5, 11 plus 10, 21 plus 2 is 23. So that's more than that. 6 plus 5, 11, plus 11, 22, plus 2, 24. So which one is a critical path?
ADFG.
Which one?
So same ADFG.
ADFG, correct, because it's the longest duration, it's 24 days. So it is not ABEG, guys, because ABEG is the shortest, it's only 22 days. The longest is ADFG, which is 24 days. Now, we know that we can't crash A anymore. We know we can't crash G. So we either could crash D or we could crash F. Which one is cheaper, D or F?
D.
D. So if I was to go and increase D, crash it, how many durations can I crash it by?
4.
4. If I crash it one time, D will change from 11 to how much?
7.
Okay, so can you bear with me for 1 second? Okay, sorry guys. So if we crash it from 11 days, it will reduce to how many days? To 10 days. Now, the 24, what will the 24 become?
23.
13.
23. And the 470, what will it become?
470 plus 25.
Plus, so how much is it?
495.
Correct. So basically what we're saying is the D becomes a 3. You see, we crash it by 1 time here. The D becomes a 3 instead of 4, so you can still crash it for 3 times. Here it becomes 10 at the bottom. The time becomes 23. And you notice that my cost will become 470 plus 25 equal 495. Does that make sense so far, my friends?
I can't understand this point. Why would reduce the D?
Could you raise your voice, please? I can't hear you well.
Sir, I can't get that point because why would we reduce the D? Because after that we find the new critical path which was A, B, E, G.
No, that's not the right pass. The right pass is A, B, F, G. Count it. A, B, E, G is 6 plus 6, 12, plus 8, 20, plus 2 is 22.
Okay.
A, D, F, G is 24. So which one is the critical pass? It's the longest.
Okay.
Make sense?
Thank you, sir. So, okay. That's why we reduce the D. That's why we reduce it because we have to only reduce the activity which is on a critical path.
Yes, and the cheapest activity, not any activity, the cheapest activity.
Okay.
Make sense?
Thank you, sir.
Guys, any questions? Anybody not sure what I've just basically done? Just remind you that we're going to still also apply that significantly today in the tutorial, and that's why you need to understand this concept. So guys, I've explained to you the 470, I explained to you the 495. That's exactly what I'm showing you. The 470 is because you guys have crashed A, that's A, and that's $20. And then we got 495 because we have crashed D, which is $25. So you see D, $25 extra from the 470 that is here. We got the 495. Now let me ask you this next question. Could you please count every path and tell me which one is a critical path now? So check it now and tell me which one is a critical path now.
There's 2 paths with 23 days.
ABEZ.
What are they?
ABEZ.
No.
ABEG is only 22.
There
It's
are
two
paths.
two
which
parts.
Two
Yes.
paths.
23.
ACFG is how many days?
23.
23.
23. And ADFG is how many days?
23.
23.
That's correct. So we have two passes together. Now let me ask you, we know we can't crash A, we know we can't crash G. We know we can crash C, D, and F. Which one would we crash?
D.
D.
Okay? But if you crash D, it only will crash one path. So if you reduce this path to 23 days, that path is still the same period. So you haven't really done anything.
So we need to crash C.
C, okay? So do you need to do D and C, or only C, or only D? Which one?
C and D both.
What do you think?
C and D.
I think we can crash D because we still have 3 maximum crash time.
Okay, 6 plus 10, 16, plus 5, 21, plus 2, 23. If you crash D, this becomes 22, but this is still going to be the same amount of time.
F.
If you do D and C, how much is it going to cost you? Remember,
30.
because you want to crash the project, if you crash this one to 22 and this one is still 23, you haven't really crashed anything. The project will still take 23. To crash, you need to crash one activity per path. So you can't crash D by itself. You can't crash C by itself. If you crash D, this pass becomes 22, but this pass remains 23. If you crash C, this pass becomes 22, but this pass stays 23. So you haven't really benefited anything at all. So which one do you think we should crash?
F.
Why F?
Because it might have an impact on both the paths. Reduce.
Correct. Think about it from a cost perspective. If you want to crash one from ACFG and one from ADFG, if you crash C, how much is it going to cost you?
30.
C. How much will C cost you?
30.
30.
And how much will D cost you?
5.
30 plus 25 is how much?
45.
55.
55.
55, sorry.
If you crash F, which is on both passes, how much is it going to cost you?
30.
So which one is cheapest?
F.
F.
F will reduce the duration on both passes for cheaper than both C and D. So if we crash F, my cost is going to increase by how much?
30.
How much?
30.
I'll crash F by 30. So 495 plus 30 equal how much? $525. And 23 days becomes how much?
22.
That's 100% correct. So we're crashing F. 1 day only. 5 becomes 4x because we can't crash it anymore. And my new cost is going to be 22 days at a cost of $525. Now, my next question to you is the following. Let's count every pass and tell me what's the duration.
It's 22 for all of them.
For all of them.
Yes. 22.
So let's look at the first pass. Let's look at ADFG. What can I crash? ADFG. What can I crash?
D.
D. ACFG. What can I crash?
C.
C. ABEG. What can I crash?
E.
E. because it's the cheapest. So the next time, if I'm going to reduce it from 22 days to 21 days, I have to crash C, D, and E together. E is 30. D is 25. C is 30. 30 plus 30, 60 plus 25, 85 plus 495 gives you 610 to reduce your duration by 1 extra. You notice 8 becomes 7x. 8 becomes 7. C becomes 9x because you can only reduce it by 1 time. And D becomes 9. So 7, 9x, and 9. 7, 9x, and 9. Now you notice that this pass can't be reduced anymore, which means even if we reduce the other passes, the project won't be reduced. 6 and 6, 12, and 7, 19, plus 2, 21. This is 21, this is 21. You can't reduce this anymore. So even if you reduce D to 20, the project will still take 21 because there's this pass, which is 21 days. When you go and calculate your project cost, 450 direct cost, 400 indirect cost. You look at by the way, the indirect costs have been given to you. You haven't calculated that. 24 days, our cost increased to 470. 23 days, our cost increased to 495. 22 days increased to 525. 21 days increased to 610. When I add to it all of this indirect cost together, I'll get my total cost. And I know it is best for me to finish the project in 22 days at a cost of $775. This is really the calculation that I want you to go and get accustomed on. We'll have 2 hours to go and apply these calculations today in the tutorial. Any questions at this stage?
No, sir, all good.
It's very straightforward if you understand the rules and you count and you do it slowly. So that's how we do it, and we get it correctly. Now you can see the cost, 21 days, 22 days, 23 days, that's a graph. You add them together, you get the total cost. So we know that 22 days is 775, which is this cost here. It's basically putting this information on a graph as basically has been shown here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you 10 minutes break now, and we'll continue after the break. Any questions? All right, enjoy your break, 10 minutes, and then we'll come back in 10. Thank you.
Okay, sir, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're continuing from that calculations. A number of practical considerations you need to bear in mind when you're trying to build, to do the crashing. Using the project cost duration graph is something that is beneficial, but it's more beneficial to go and do it at the beginning of the project, not after you've started the project and someone is imposing on you a very specific duration. If you can try to think about crashing at the beginning, before you even start the project, at the beginning of it, when you've made the calculations, without starting the project, that's actually the best possible time. Second thing to bear in mind, people may not understand what the meaning of crash time actually means. So people might have different meanings of that, and people might be hesitant to be able to go and give the time that is considered as a crash time. So that's another thing for you to actually go and bear in mind. Third thing to bear in mind, that we told you that we are trying to reduce the duration 1 day at a time. What I want you to know is sometimes the duration is not linear. So sometimes you try to reduce things, but it doesn't happen on a linear basis, which is 1 period at a time. Sometimes an activity will take either 10 days or 7 days. You don't have 1 day period to go and actually crash it. The choice of activities to crash sometimes need to be reconsidered. For example, an activity might be cheaper to go and crash, but it might be creating much more risk for the project if you were to crash it. So sometimes maybe the cost is not really the only factor you need to consider when you're trying to make the crashing. Finally, when trying to make a crashing, the time reduction decision needs to be considered, because if you crash it too much, your critical paths might become sensitive, which means you might have more than one critical path, which might make it much more harder for you to go and actually manage a project. What are the commonly used options for cutting costs? We can reduce the project scope. We can ask the owner to do some work themselves. We can make outsourcing, and a lot of time you outsource to specialized people who have a lot of skills and knowledge in an area, which makes your cost much more cheaper from that perspective. And sometimes you get the whole team to sit together and start thinking about all of these various things they're doing and what they believe is the best approach for them to implement, for them to go and reduce the project cost. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is very, very important for us to be effective project managers. This is really the new topic that I'm covering for you today, beyond the reduction of the project cost. We think about leadership, we think about management. Leadership and management are two different things. You lead people, you manage a project. So I do lead a person, okay? I do lead a team, I do lead a group, but I manage potentially a task. I manage a project, I manage a job that has been allocated for me to go and do. Now, there are two specific statements here. Leadership is a talent only a few people are born with, and management is a skill that anyone could gain. Do you agree? And what do you think there's a difference, in your opinion, between both of these terms? What can you tell me? Do you think leadership is a talent that a few people are born with, and management is a skill that anybody could join and get, or no? What do you think?
Leadership, I think, is both talent and as well as it can be learned over a period of time through influences, certain influences environments.
Okay, so if you talk about leadership, do you think you can gain it?
Yeah, I think so.
Give us an
I
example.
think we can gain the both, the talent as well as skill, but the key is the hard work only.
Okay, the key is the hard work, so you can actually build your leadership, you can build your management, that's what you say. Anyone disagree, guys?
Yes, sir.
What do you think, Amandeep?
Oh, sorry, sir. I thought you said agree.
That's
Sorry.
okay. Anyone disagree, guys?
So what is your opinion, Ms. Amandeep, if you are not agree?
No, she does agree. She said she agrees.
I'm agree.
Anyone else, guys? Okay. Do you think there's any difference between the two? I think the difference is really what I've incorporated earlier about the task versus the management and the leadership of people. Guys, project managers are both leaders and managers. They are having expectations that are very specific. They are having various resources, diverse resources, many of which they're not in your department. You can't manage someone who's not in your department. You can show leadership, you can show initiative, you can show great respect. People would want to associate with you because they see you to be a great leader doing a great job. You don't report to them, they don't report to you, so you're not really even managing those people directly. Managers are having shorter deadlines, they have no chance of getting it right the next time. They need to lead people, they need to show initiative, they need to show ethics, they need to lead people in the right direction, not simply tell people what to do. You could tell people what to do, but people may not feel belonging. They're not feeling it's really important for them to go and get a job. They're not feeling that you're a great leader. They feel, I really don't like to work for this guy. Okay, he's always asking. He doesn't really care about any of us. A great leader might be someone who cares for the people around him. People around will start feeling people around will start wanting to do everything they can. Not simply because you are their manager, but also because they feel association with you, they feel potentially friendship with you, and they would like to do everything in their power to go and get the job done. When I talk about managing is about coping with complexity. It's about, let's get a plan, let's get an objective, let's see how we're going. If there's a mistake, let's fix it. Let's get the job done quickly. Let's solve a technical problem. Let's serve as a peacemaker for conflict that is occurring. Let's make a trade-off. Am I going to manage time, cost, specifications? That's management. Leadership is really a bit more. Leadership is about showing initiative. Leadership is about recognizing when there's a need for change before anybody knows about that. Leadership is about directing people and making people be motivated to go and actually join with you. Leadership is about being innovative, helping people to go and adapt to that innovation by guiding them, okay, to be part of that innovation. It's about integrating your resources to feel part of your project, not feel simply we are managing something because we basically need to go and actually manage that specific job. So it's really, really important to be able to go and get the job done appropriately by having both leadership skills and management skills, getting the job done and leading people, showing initiative, get the job done, showing innovation. That is not really part of just simply doing the tasks that you have on hand. Project management, my friends, is about working with so many different people. You cannot do everything by yourself. You cannot do things hands-on. You cannot say, I'm going to do everything. It's about saying, let me get people to actually go and become more involved. Let me go and see which tasks I must do and which tasks I can allow and allocate other people to go and do. I need to ask what is important to me, as well as about understanding what is actually important to other people who I need to build a very, very great relationship with all of them. Project management is not easy. It's important. It pays a lot of money. For those who's interested in a career in project management, you can be on $200,000 easily, and you can remain on very high wages for the remaining of your career. But it is tough. It is rewarding. It is exciting. But you can't get the job done unless you persevere and never give up. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of new things will happen. And it is your job to go and see how you're going to go and get it done. So when you're a project manager, you work with so many people. You work with other project managers. You work with your team. You work with the top management. You work with the sponsor specifically supporting your project, who's really related to top management. You work with your customers. You work with various functional managers. You work with various contractors. You work with administrators such as accounting and HR. You work with government agencies, and you might even work with many other organizations who basically might be working with you to get the job done. All of those people have different needs. All of those people have different requirements. It is your job to see, what can I do to build a great relationship with everybody? I'm going to play you a very, very quick video, and I want you to have a look at that.
Laura. Hey, Paul.
You make some more. You know that, baby. Sweat for a long day. All day. Just triple T.
It's not working on my side.
We can't see the video, sir.
You can't see the video. Okay, you took time to tell me. Let me just replay it, sorry. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, let's just try it again.
Laura. Hey, Paul.
You know you can't bring that weak ass messed up in this happy bumpy. You killed it, Joe. You make some more. You know that, baby. For a long day. All day. Just triple D's up in this.
Said I was crazy when I brought Terry on board, but I'm a firm proponent of paradigm breaking, outside the box thinking. And since Terry's been with us, our productivity has gone up 46%.
15 minutes ago, bitch. I am an enforcer, man. Don't nothing go down in my house. It's 100% heart, baby. Sure, I check a few fools. I give them the pain. But sometimes it's about intimidation, you know. It's mind games. I'll see you later.
What's really impressed me is how Terry's become part of the Felcher family. He fits right in here.
Surprise! As profits increase, the margin reaches a second break-even point here, after which enterprise falls into loss. Any questions? You know you need a cover sheet on your TPS reports. Motherfucker!
That's not to say that Terry's gone soft. He still does what he does best. Of course, the office environment is, in fact, a violent world, and injuries do occur.
Hey, man. Hurt? Baby, that don't faze me. I don't got time for pain. The only pain I got time for is the pain I put on fools who don't know what time it is. Bitch ass thing, I done lost a step because of what happened. What happened to my knee and such? Well, he ain't for a surprise. A rude, painful surprise.
To be honest, I wish I had 10 Terry Tates on Team Felcher.
I just do my job, man. I do what my God-given abilities allow me to do, and I thank Jesus Christ for it every single day. And do I enjoy what I do? Hell yeah. This ain't your pants, Richard. Ball points.
Just to give you a bit of warning, make sure you don't do that in your workplace. Just wanted to kind of show you, you know, an approach you can actually go and use to be able to go and lead people.
That was a nice entertainment.
What's that? Sorry?
That was a nice entertainment.
Yeah, so I guess it's all about leadership and influencing people. Like, is that really the approach you would like to go and create to influence people? Or are you going to be creating a right leadership approach where people feel belonging to you, not actually people being fearful of you? People feel belonging, and that's why they would like to go and do the right thing to be able to go and support you. So we continue on that. If you would like to go and influence people, there's various ways for you to go and influence people. It's just basically there's a number of laws. For example, there's a law of reciprocity, which is if I help you, it is very likely you are going to be helping me in return. One good deed deserves another, and likewise, one bad deed does deserve another. It's really about a mutual exchange. Like sometimes I say, you know what, let's just quid pro quo. Let me exchange resources with you, and you will actually exchange things back with me later. So you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, we'll be able to get the right outcome. Another thing you can actually, what's wrong with you? Another thing we can do is we can have currencies, which is what is known by, developed by Cohen and Bradford. It's about creating a currency. It's about creating favors. It's about making exchanges with people, exchange with them things they would like. And there's, for example, task-related currency. It's like, you help me by doing the tasks that you're expected to do. You give me the resources, you give me the assistance, you give me the cooperation, you give me the information I need. You try to support me whatever way possible by giving me the support that I need from a task perspective. Sometimes as a project manager, I might give you position-related currency. So if you basically help me, I might give you advancements. I might give you recognition. I might give you visibility. I might give you a network and contacts to be able to grow your career. Advancement could be like, I give you a task that can result in you being promoted, for example. That's position-related currency. People are helping you because there's something they are going to get from a position-related benefit for them. Inspiration-related. Sometimes people are wanting to help you because they're inspired by what you're doing. They're inspired by your vision. They're inspired by your excellence. They're basically inspired by the ethical correctness that you continue showing all the time, which is why they basically go and work with you and support you. Sometimes there's relationship-related currency. People feel accepted. People feel personal support. You know, I might go and support people, you know, beyond the work because they feel that I'm their friend. I might show understanding and listen to all of those people and show concern to their need. I might accept those people, give them the closeness, give them the friendship, and because of that great relationship, they basically try to give me all the support I need to be able to get the job done. Sometimes there's personal-related currency. I look at how do I get the people who I work with to feel great self-esteem? I give them challenging work. I give them learning. I give them involvement. I give them ownership. I give them gratitude. All of these things, because I'm helping people getting the self-esteem that they need, I actually influence them to go and support me on whatever job I would like to go and get done. So there's so many various currencies that could be used by a project manager to be able to get people to provide the support that is needed to get a project to be delivered. Now, when you try to work with so many various people, as a project team, you need to ask yourself, whose cooperation I need to get the job done? Whose agreement or approval I need to get the job done? Whose opposition would keep me from getting the job done? If I know, for example, whose agreement I need an approval, I'll build a good relationship with them. I know who could oppose me, I'll build a good relationship with them. And I explain to them the reason for my project. Stakeholders have a different perspective than the people who work on a team. You need to ask yourself, how am I different in terms of my needs than those people who are basically my stakeholders? How do my stakeholders view my project, positively or negatively? Do I have a relationship currently with all the people who are my stakeholders, or I need to build those relationships? How can I influence those people who are my stakeholders? I need to ask myself all of these questions, and I need to try to build a relationship with all of those people to enable me to ensure I get the outcomes required to be delivered. There's in the textbook an example of a dependency for a financial software installation. Who is my stakeholder? There's an information technology manager. There's a software developer. There's a software vendor. There's a shipping company. There's a top management who need to provide the support and the money. There's the inventory people who might need to go and use that software. There's billing and receipt people. There's information technology director. There's a purchasing team who needs to give me the money to go and make the purchase. So you need to ask yourself all of these questions. Who are my stakeholders? Because if you don't build the right relationship and the right contents and start engaging with all of those people, you are very unlikely to be able to manage to go and achieve the outcomes you would like to go and achieve. Any questions, guys?
No, sir, all good.
All right. Now, how can I manage? There's a very specific style of management called management by wandering around, which is I walk around the office. I go and speak to people. I go and build relationship. I have a lot of face-to-face interactions where I talk to people. I build relationship with people. Not simply the people that I need them now, you also build relationship with other people who might work in the business and who you might not need now, but might actually need to go and work with in the future. That's what you call management by wandering around. A lot of times you go and see managers who tell you, I have an open door policy, but every time you go to work and speak to that manager, their door is closed. Do you really have an open door policy? Or is it only a word? If you want to go and be an effective project manager, you need to build contact with all of those key players. You need to think about what could go wrong in my project and be ready for it. You need to be a leader who is encouraging people, not simply managing people. You need to always show clarity and show support to the actual vision of the project. What are we trying to go and actually deliver? There will be many instances where you are going to be finding people in the project who are conflicting, having fights, not agreeing with each other. You need to be able to go as a manager and try to intervene and resolve the conflict. What does resolving the conflict mean? It's not by getting one person to win and the other person to lose. It's about getting the team to basically be collaboratively feeling that we both have worked well and we are both kept, kept our respect. We are still being respected by the people around us. If the project manager finds that the people he's working with and they are conflicting, they are having a negative impact on the project and the project might not be able to go and be delivered on time, that's something you need to effectively manage very, very quickly. If someone is impacting negatively on the ability to go and get the project to be delivered, you should get them out of the actual project very quickly. You need to prevent stalemates where things are not progressing. And that's why you should meet your team regularly. You should understand immediately what is an issue. Because if there's an issue, you should work on it straight away to try to fix it. That's really what you need to go and think about and work. Other things for you to be able to get successful project is you need to have top management support. They need to give you the money. If you need something, they need to be responsive. If something must come up, especially unexpectedly, if they are supporting you, they are giving you what you need, they are giving you all the guidance, it basically will create that message and that image in the organization. And that image really shows that because the senior management are supporting the team, everybody in the organization know that that project is important. So they know it's important to senior management, which means everybody's going to go and start collaborating with senior management to get the job done. As a manager, you need to go and motivate people, influence them, okay? If somebody comes and make unreasonable demand to the team, say, sorry, we can't accept it. If your team needs more resources to get the job done, work with the right stakeholders, such as top management, and get those resources to be available. If your team if you want your team to be motivated, recognize their accomplishment. I remember when I used to work in Career One, every time we used to be making a release, the whole company gets joined on video conferencing. Everybody start talking about what has been achieved, and the project managers will recognize the work of every single person on that team. They basically help the team see that they are considered valuable and their contribution is actually being appreciated. If you see that people are appreciating all the work that you're doing, what happens, ladies and gentlemen? Because your work is being appreciated, people will become willing to go and actually give much more to that specific task. The project manager, guys, is very important, and so is the project sponsor. The project sponsor, it's really the umbrella that protects you from top management and from all of these storms that the company might be experiencing. All of these problems that the company might be experiencing, you can actually get protected from all of these problems by the project sponsor. The project sponsor protects the team. The project sponsor supports the project manager in whatever the needs for that team by acting as the relationship between the manager and the organization, especially top management, a lot of time, especially when you're trying to get resources, and by trying to go and protect the project from any external influence that other people in the company might want to go and actually try to exercise. As a manager, guys, you need to set very high standard of performance. And their standard of performance, you can't simply set them. You have to go and demonstrate how you are applying them yourself. If you say this project, we need to go and work hard every day and work extra hours, if that's a standard, and if you say we're going to come early to work and you're coming at 10 every day and everybody else is coming at 9, that's not really showing a standard of performance that is appropriate. You need to show a willingness to go and cooperate with everybody else. You need to show willingness to solve a problem, not to blame people for a mistake. We have a problem-solving, cooperative attitude to getting the job done, and that is really our focus. You think about your priorities. If you say this project is a top priority, but everybody see that you are allocating very little time to that specific project, people are going to question whether what you are saying is actually correct or not. They're going to say, well, we don't believe what this guy is saying. It just doesn't make any sense. You're going to need to show urgency. If there's a problem, if there's an issue, if you urgently go and start working on it yourself, everybody else will start feeling the urgency. If you know there's a problem and there's a delay and you're basically sitting at the back, not doing the job you need to do, not really taking the extra quick effort that is required, people are not going to go and actually start acting very quickly. If you're not doing it, why would they do it? You need to act ethically. If the stakeholder comes and tell you, please go and change the actual project status and put that it's going well, although it's not going well, let's just go and make some lying. So you can actually go and do that, but if you're going to go and do that, it's not really the best approach for you to go and do that, because you want to make sure that you are showing the right ethics yourself. If people see that you are actually able to go and change the rules and act unethically yourself, people are going to go and say, why are we going to be able to go and act ethically if other people are not actually acting ethically? They're going to say, we're not going to act ethically because it's very obvious that acting ethically is actually not very important. So people won't actually go and follow. So you need to be acting ethically, leading by example, and showing everybody else that if you are acting ethically, everybody else is going to actually go and follow. Some ethical dilemmas include, for example, padding a cost and time estimates. You would say that the project is going to take you more time and more cost, while it's actually in reality, it doesn't. Trying to lie when it comes to exaggerating payoffs of the project proposal. You say, oh, it's going to get us $1 million, but it's not. That's incorrect. Falsely assuring the customer that everything is on track while it's actually not. Being pressured to alter a status report by, let's say, the CEO. Falsifying cost accounts so that people don't see that you're going over budget. Don't worry about the safety standards that are required to get the progress that is basically needed to be done. Approving work that does not actually meet the quality. That's another big problem. So all of these issues could be solved by having a code of conduct. What is a professional standard that we need to go and follow? Everybody in the organization needs to follow. The standard applies to everybody. It's about how things need to be done. It's about doing the right thing. And nobody is allowed to go and act in a non-ethical manner at any specific point of time. It is very important for the project manager to be a good leader, especially when it comes to demonstrating great ethicality in performance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there are a number of contradictions when it comes to the project management role. The project manager needs to go and be innovative, but at the same time, he needs to maintain stability. How could you innovate and make a change in the business while at the same time, you are having to ensure everything remains stable without any change? They need to see the big picture, which is I see the system, I'll see what everybody's doing, and get the job, their hand dirty to get the job done. They need to encourage individuals. Every work, every person is important, but at the same time, stress on the team, importance of the whole team. They're both important. They need to be hands-off, trust the people to do the job, and hands-on. When people don't get the job or have a problem to get the job done, we need to go and help them and work hand by hand to get the job done. They need to be flexible to allow people to do the job, but firm if people don't do the job the way that they're supposed to go and do that. They need to think about the team. I care about the team. I'm loyal to the team. But at the same time, they need to be loyal to the organization, which means if you know the project is going to be delayed and there's a problem that can't be met, can't be fixed, you need to go and stop the project and cancel it. Not simply say, I'm committed to my team. I can't actually go and cancel that specific project. So there's so many things involved to go and consider. Qualities of an effective project manager. Think about the whole system and how every person interact together and link together to get the job done. B, having a personal integrity. Don't lie, be nice, be ethical, do the right thing. Be proactive. Don't wait for something to go wrong to start acting. Initiate things without anything going wrong. Being highly emotionally intelligent. If somebody comes and say you're not doing a good job, don't take it personally. Manage your emotions and manage not simply your emotions, but also the emotions of other people in your team and other stakeholders. So understand your emotions, manage your emotions, understand other stakeholders' emotions, and manage other stakeholders' emotions. They need to have a big overview of how the business operates. They need to have very good time management. They need to be great politician to deal with all of those people with various requirements, various criteria, and they need to be optimists. They need to show people that something better could go and happen. And because they can see that something better could go and happen, everybody else believes in them and everybody else starts showing that optimism to get the job done. Suggestion for a project manager. Don't wait until you need someone to build a relationship with them. Build the relationship before you need it. Build the relationship based on trust. Meet people face to face. Talk to them. Get them to feel that you're their friend, you're not their enemy. Realize that what goes around comes around. You're bad to everybody, it's going to come back to you. You're good to everybody, everybody's going to come and work with you. And that's something that I've experienced very clearly in the various places I've worked, especially when we're delivering various IT projects. We had project managers that people love to work with, and we had project managers that people hated to work with. It's all about how you treat other people. My friends, do you have any questions?
No, sir, all good.
Guys, review the lecture slides and the notes and the tutorial materials. We're going to actually be talking about. Read chapters 9 and 10. Continue working on your assessments, including the quiz that is going to happen when we come back in week 7. So it's very important you come to your classes in week 7 to do your quiz and to potentially start talking about your assignment further. I just want to say thank you very much.
Is it going to be in first half or second half?
What's that?
Our quiz, is it going to be in first half or second half?
I can't tell you because I want you to come to the whole tutorial. So assume it's in the first half, and if it doesn't happen in the first half, assume it's going to be in the second half. Okay? Sorry, I can't tell you that answer. Fair enough?
Where will we prepare from?
You'll be preparing, everything could be accessible, but it's mainly between weeks, what we've done between weeks 4 and week 6. But there could be questions from other sections, but mainly between week 4 and week 6. But considering that many materials are interlinked, there might be a question that might require some understanding from the materials in weeks 1 and 3, but mainly from weeks 4 to week 6.
Will it only be short answer or we have to have long answers as well?
Multiple choice and calculation questions. So you need to have pen and a paper, and you need to be making the calculations because there are calculations.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Any other question? Yeah, thank you very much. And apology, I can't tell you whether it's going to be in the first half or second half, but come to your tutorial, the whole tutorial, and make sure you're present on that day. Guys, thank you very much for your time.
That's completely fine, sir. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.